Welcome. If you are watching this because you are concerned, full of energy, and maybe even angry about how presidential elections turn out, you are at the right place. If you're confused about the process and why it seems so complicated, you're also at the right place. If you are knowledgeable and understand the way it is done and upset about others being upset, you'll also find the next 8 minutes rewarding and important. Hi, I'm Tim Horn. I'm a student of American freedom, an author, media commentator, and a speaker about American life. Our focus today is on the sometimes controversial method we use to elect a person to the position of President of the United States. Now, before we discuss complaints and changes to that method, let's make sure that all of us understand the current why and the how of electing the American president. That makes sense, doesn't it? So, the way America determines its president and vice president, its federal legislators, and its federal judges are all prescribed by the Constitution of the United States. It was all agreed to by representatives of the American states in 1789, becoming the one and only supreme law of the land. All laws emanate from it and must comply with it. This document, created by agreement, a system of states with sovereign powers, a base of individual citizens with specifically stated rights, and a federal government which would service and protect both the states and the citizens. The Constitution can be amended by the states, but it is difficult to do so. It requires 2/3 of the state legislators or state convention members to propose a change, referred to as an amendment, and 3/4 of all the states or members to approve a change in the Constitution. Even with this nearly unanimous requirement, amendments have been done 27 times in the 228 years since our nation was formed by the Constitution. The first 10 of those amendments are called the Bill of Rights and were passed in 1791 to specifically state the rights of citizens that were not quite ready to be included 2 years before. The remaining 17 amendments included some unfinished business, like the end of slavery and voting rights for women, as well as other modifications that keep it in sync with the culture of America, like the minimum federal voting age. So there it is, the Constitution, the foundation of every American law. So what does it require regarding the election of a president? The selection of people for each of the federal bodies is designed to be different in election, duties, and in time served, so as to enhance the separation of powers and to discourage the concentration of power. House representatives are elected by state district for 2 years, senators by entire states for 6 years. Presidents begin with 51 individual popular elections. That's 50 states plus Washington, D.C. Then it's weighted by state populations using electors to cast the final vote. There's one elector provided for each House representative, that number being based on population, and one for each senator, which is 2 in every state, referred to as the Electoral College process. These people cast the deciding ballots for president based on which presidential candidate received either most or some portion of the state popular vote, depending on the state law. That is the why and the how of electing the President of the United States. So what then is the clamor of those seeking to change the way the President has been elected successfully and peacefully for well over 2 centuries? The national popular vote proponents contend that only a direct popular vote should be used, and the electoral weighting is not fair to voters because only a few states get major attention from the presidential candidates. A key part of evidence they cite is data on post-primary visits of the candidates to each state. This data shows that 8 or 9 states get most of the presidential candidate attention, visits, and campaign expenditures. This statement, however, seems very shallow, since the change they propose could make the popular votes of entire states meaningless and make the outcome of presidential elections different. And the proponents seem to say that U.S. elections are supposed to be votes where everybody votes and a simple majority wins. In reality, many of the votes prescribed in our American system neither include all citizens nor a majority to win. We already noted how constitutional amendments require representatives to vote on behalf of citizens and 2/3 of the votes to propose and 3/4 to prevail, rather than a simple vote by all. Consider that to pass state or federal laws, it is the representatives of the people that vote, and in the U.S. Senate, most votes need 60% to pass. The NPV people seem to promote that the U.S. is a simple democracy. It is not. In political science terms, America is better described as a constitutional republic where we elect representatives whose job is to consider issues and vote on behalf of others. Our government was carefully crafted in the Constitution in order to avoid tyranny of the majority and to keep power from getting concentrated into the states with the most people. NPV proponents are seeking to have states join a state compact to bypass the Electoral College in the election of president. State compacts are the legal structures that states use to agree to things of mutual interest. For example, an agreement on how to build a bridge connecting two states, or manage a lake which borders multiple states. The NPV people are proposing a plan where a group of states would automatically give their electoral votes to whichever candidate has most of the total votes cast in America. The plan is to have enough states combine their electoral votes to secure the presidency for the person winning the most votes. It bypasses the written intent of the Constitution to not have a simple popular vote for president. The fundamental problem? Bypassing means going around something to get someplace. The NPV compact proponents seek to get around the Constitution to have a popular vote that is not permitted in the Constitution. They believe by having an agreement between 12 to 15 of the largest 50 states, plus DC, they can ignore the Constitution, which requires 34 states to even propose a change in the law and 38 to approve any change in the law. Since they know they cannot meet that requirement, they want you to help them build some new way around it. Consider that if a constitutional bypass agreement were possible, there likely would have been no end to slavery, because the South would have just voted in a bypass. There is no bypass. The Constitution requires major agreement of the states to change the Constitution before any state cannot follow the existing rules. And these proponents know they can't get that much support. The NPV proponents must think that a catchy name, coupled with a constitutional allowance of states to create agreements, can be used to trick the people into supporting a breach of the Constitution, and that they're going to control the U.S. Supreme Court to agree. If someone is willing to get around something, they must not like it. So, who is behind trying this and why? The answer to these questions will make it clear that the NPV must not be approved. Why is this being pushed? 1. 10 states have approved it, and they're all Democrat-controlled states. 2. These 10 are led by the largest states with the most individual voters, California and New York. 3. The NPV would allow just 12 to 15 states, the largest with a few friendly states, to determine the president in every election, and their proportional growth over time would reduce that number to even fewer. 4. If this were in place 20 years ago, George Bush would not have had 2 terms, and Donald Trump would not be president now. Put in place today, and the largest states will immediately dominate all of the federal government. Put in place today, there will likely be nothing but a Democrat as president again, ever again. Who is backing this effort? 1. Ignorant, brainwashed, or anti-American voters, and we have them. 2. Democrats who widely support voter fraud, media corruption, and street violence, and want to add bypassing the Constitution as a means to gain more power. 3. Republicans that have been manipulated or perhaps bought off. So what is the takeaway here, right now, from what I'm saying? The takeaway is that the NPV compact would forever give your vote for president to the candidate most popular in other states. So you need to think no, talk no, and vote no on the NPV. For our state, NPV means no presidential vote ever again.